Dear passengers, welcome to your flight with zeroG. Today's destination, the truth. Please stay curious and enjoy the ride.
Hey everyone, welcome to Data Waypoint, zeroG's very own podcast where we talk about all the interesting solutions that we offer here at zeroG. Today, I would say we have a very interesting topic, a topic everyone can refer to. Just imagine you're at the gate and have a last-minute gate change, or you're standing right in the aircraft and you actually see that boarding takes forever because people brought too much carry-on to the aircraft. And for all those challenges, we actually have a very amazing solutions that we will take some time to talk about today. But before, I want to introduce you to my wonderful two guests that I have here today, or actually I will let them introduce themselves. Fabian.
Thank you very much. I'm very glad to be on this podcast. I'm Fabian Vogel. I'm a lead data scientist at zeroG. I've been working here for around 8 years and with a background in computer science and mathematics. I have worked in various computer vision and machine learning applications. And so I have also worked in C.O.B.R.A, for example, what we will discuss today.
Amazing. Thanks, Fabian, and welcome. And we have a second guest, Felix.
Yeah, I'm also, thank you very much for the introduction. I'm also very excited to be on this podcast today. I'm Felix, as you already said, also data scientist with the zeroG for almost 2 years now. I also have a background in computer science and mechanical engineering, a bit of robotics, but mostly I've been working on computer vision solutions, which will also be the topic of today's solution, C.O.B.R.A. And yeah.
Amazing. Then welcome to the two of you. As we can see, we have two experts, which is amazing. And let's actually start and dive into the topic. So I briefly touched it already, but maybe you two or you, Fabian, can give us an introduction of what was the actual problem at the airport and what is the core challenge of the solutions that we are having.
Yeah, sure. So during the last few years, especially after COVID, a lot of people got more into flights, into the aviation. They brought more check-in luggage. Check-in luggage took much more time. So they decided, okay, I also want to take more carry-on baggage. And the more carry-on baggage the people brought on board, the longer boarding takes, the longer security control takes to scan through all the luggages. So we thought, okay, this is a problem that only gets worse. So how can we solve that and identify people that have too many carry-on baggages and try to steer the operations so that we don't get any issues during boarding.
Okay, and so why is this mainly an issue which you say applies to all the airports all over?
So I think it can be applied to all airports. It's mainly a problem for bigger airports because they have, of course, much more stuff to load on. They have much bigger operations in general, but it can be applied to all airports. And I think, especially as all people are traveling with more carry-on baggages, it's an issue for everybody.
Yeah, and so Felix, and what's the main problem when it's not operated well? So if the airport is actually not tackling this challenge, what's the impact? What happens?
I think Fabian already touched on this. So I think everyone knows it. If you have too much carry-on baggage, you have to eventually take it away. Otherwise, it gets a problem in the aircraft, and which is actually the worst case scenario because then luggage has to be offloaded, and in the end, this all leads to delays in flight, which is costly for the airline, but also negative for the passenger because the experience just decreases.
Yeah, I can talk to him, basically speak for myself. It's absolutely annoying then when people bring like a gazillion carry on to the aircraft, and it often really leads to delays. Okay, amazing. Can you actually say what was the origin of the project? So who were the parts taking part of the projects, and who is still driving the project?
So it began from actually Armin, a ground operations handler from Lufthansa Group, had saw this issue with carry-on baggage, and at that time also computer vision really got very good. So he thought, okay, why can't we combine technical solution and this problem? So we did a very small POC in a test environment, and this was successful. So then we thought, okay, now we can go from the testing environment to a real environment. So we went to a real gate, testing gate. We tested together with Lufthansa Industry Solutions. We developed a solution at the security control.
Mm-hmm. And can you explain maybe a little bit more briefly what role zeroG played in the whole POC?
Of course, yeah. zeroG played very important role because we developed the computer vision solution and all the counting. We detected or we developed the algorithm that counts how many carry-on bags everybody is carrying, what type of carry-on baggage the people are carrying. Is it a big trolley or is it just a small purse? So that it doesn't really take any relevance. And we did all that.
And maybe, Felix, can you also say why is the data-driven approach the right approach here? So why not just having a camera and having someone actually telling people like this is too much carry on? So why is data-driven approach the right decision here?
I mean, if we're looking at how it's actually done today, actually we have to take care of it because, as I've just said, if we have too many carry-on baggages on the airplane, we have to do something about it. But in the end, if a person or if we rely on our gut feeling, it's never a good decision. So if you have data and have a data-driven approach, we can actually be fair. We can have an objective view on it, and we can actually provide people who have to make a decision with all the actionable data they can get. And I think that's really important.
Yeah, data definitely helps for backup. I can speak from experience again. Then let's maybe dive a little bit deeper into the actual solution itself. So, I mean, you already said it. It's nice to actually have data that proves that someone is probably bringing too much carry-on to the aircraft itself. But what does real-time assessment actually mean? So it's carry-on real-time assessment. So what does this in detail mean?
Yeah, I mean, carry-on baggage detection, I think, is kind of self-explaining. So we detect carry-on baggage and we associate to the person, and we do this either at the boarding gate where people are right about to board the airplane, or at the security area. And we basically have a camera that the security camera that detects passengers and also their carry-on baggage, associates that, and this information is then provided in real time. So this is the real-time component to the gate agents, who can then use this data to have to specifically call out people and have more time and more insights into who's carrying maybe, or who has non-compliant carry-on baggage that is too much. Basically, yeah.
Okay, so basically we say we install it right at the boarding. Is there also a way to maybe install it even earlier at the security? Is this also an opportunity?
So this is we had the boarding. We started at the boarding gates because it was an easy start for us to also prove that this actually creates value and that it actually helps the gate agents get a better overview of the situation. But we also realized that it was a bit too late, because then everything was basically done, and the only thing we had was we created data. So we basically took this to an earlier stage, which is the security area, and have basically the same setup. But then we get another 1 or 2 hours before boarding and can actually then provide the information earlier, and the gate agents have basically more time to react.
Yeah. Absolutely makes sense. And from a data point of view, can you maybe elaborate a little bit on the challenges? Were there like challenges with the data? Is it super easy, super smooth? Maybe you can talk a little bit from this your experience.
So I wouldn't say there are big technical issues, but in general, always if you work together with multiple parties, of course there are some difficulties to, like, for example, combine the data and get the data we need to get from the e-gate, so the scan of the boarding pass. You need to get that information to associate the passenger to the carry-on baggage. That was a difficulty. And then some data science difficulties we faced were also, for example, that we initially thought that we can detect like 6 or 7 classes of carry-on baggage, and then we saw this doesn't work that well, and we focus on only 2 or 3. So we have only trolleys, personal items, and jackets, and we don't need like differentiate between personal items and purses, because we just had like a size differentiation for that.
And was there anything that just surprised you on the way? Anything, absolutely unforeseen?
I would say actually my latter point. So that we really originally thought, okay, we take 6 different classes, and if we really tell the computer, this is how a trolley look like, this is how a bag look like, this is how a small purse looks like, that this is much better for the model. But at the end, it was much easier to detect one item of
But actually,
of a
but
couple.
actually also interesting, because in the end, it's also what we want to know. Because in the end, it doesn't matter if it's a jacket, if it's a purse, or if it's a backpack. It matters how big it is, and that's what we then eventually also ended up with, and added the size estimation, which then actually helps us to provide this information to the gate agent, what I said earlier, and not if it's a backpack.
Yeah.
Because then
The information.
that's what counts.
Sometimes less is more. Let's put it that way.
I think you're
Okay, that sounds actually very reasonable, I'd say. And when I think about like airport operations, it's quite complex. So how did you make sure that this solution actually fits into the into the landscape of the airport operations in general? How did you tackle that?
We went on the open office, which is like a place where the gate agents do like their breaks, and there we also went and presented our solution so that we also can get input from them. What are their pain points? What do they need? And how can we really support them? And this really reduced the friction between the solution and the implementation at the end.
Yeah. And can you maybe tell us a little bit about the reaction of the people? So how did they feel about the system? Did they like it? Did they dislike it? Do we have any findings about that already?
I think it was mostly positive when I look at back, and I think the overall feedback was positive. And what really surprised me, what was interesting, that there were different approaches of handling it. So we talked earlier about a gut feeling and why data-driven is sometimes a good approach. It really, in the end, also really depends on how people are personally and how they handle the situation at the gate. And I think there we saw a huge potential to actually give them something to lean on and have an objective view of it, and then can also be a bit more accurate about who they approach, because sometimes it actually happened that they, for example, approach someone who has had a business class ticket,
right,
and said,
randomly,
and this can lead to some awkward situations. And I think this was positive feedback that we got.
As a German potato, I need to ask this question: data privacy, data protection. So I assume this might has also been quite a challenge, or at least a topic you needed to talk about and to tackle. Can you elaborate on that a little? So how did you cover that? So what is the solution for that?
That's a huge topic. I think for us it was important to deal with this from day one, even when we talked about the first POC. Maybe one insight into how we actually tackle this, or what was the major challenge here, was that we of course deal with video data, and this data has to be anonymized. So how we solved this issue was that before we actually see the data, before we actually apply our AI to the video feed, we blur people's faces so that you cannot recognize them by face anymore. And also during live operations, we don't even get to see or store video at all. So only the information about anonymized the count of carry-on baggage per person is then transferred to their gate agents.
Yeah.
So nothing else is stored. And I think these kind of things you have to take care of step by step. As I said, it has been a long way, but yeah.
Yeah, so I'm very happy that this is tackled as well and covered. Now, looking forward, maybe we can talk a little bit about the impact and the results. So I heard that the POC is up and running. Do we have any specific findings already? Anything interesting? What is the actual impact of the solution?
So at the moment we are in the pilot phase, so it doesn't have a specific impact on any passengers at the moment. So if you're a passenger, you don't need to worry at the moment. You can just take as many carry-on baggage as you want. But this will soon not be the case, as we are currently going live and trying to actually run it. Also implementing it really that the gate agents can use it and really take care of the carry-on baggages. But we already saw that the impact will be very important and very, very big.
I mean, the overarching rate of preventing delays, I think, is something like each airport has to tackle. So this might be a nice opportunity to also buy into that overarching goal then. Okay.
Yep.
Cool. And maybe I've heard that this project actually gained quite some recognition all over. And we even got an award. Maybe you can talk a little bit of that. So what's all about this award?
Yeah, so we got very nice. We got an innovation award, and Aviation Innovation Award at Dubai. It was really amazing to see that even internationally we also get the recognition for this innovative project, and we see that it's not only something for Germany, but it's internationally a very relevant topic where we can hopefully solve some issues at some airports.
Yeah, I hope so too. It would be actually nice for us to have a worldwide rollout of the solution. And I'm looking forward. Is there anything planned yet? So what's the next steps? What are you actually planning on doing with the solution?
Yeah, I think moving from the boarding gate to security was only a first step, but it came kind of naturally. So are the things that we have already in mind. I think especially when it comes to these security gates, also the boarding gates, we have issues with tailgating. So people scanning one ticket, but actually there's 2 or 3 people coming through the gates, which cannot really be detected at the moment, or is an issue at least for some airports. We also see in further development of size detection and estimation of these carry-on baggages. So and also to even further integrate it with hardware that's already there. So we're having a bunch of ideas. Our focus obviously is in the moment of continuing and successfully completing the pilot, and then hopefully also rolling this out to even more gates.
Even like an evolution to the current status quo. Thanks, you two. I think we got a clear understanding on why this live carry-on assessment is actually very much needed and also brings great value to the airports and in the end also to the customer, because this is what we want to do. We actually want to enhance the customer journey in aviation. And as a light closing of this very interesting podcast episode, just give us a little own opinion. If you could wish for something as a data scientist, what people should actually rethink in aviation, what would that be? So, Felix, Fabian. Fabian first.
So I think what is really important for aviation to think more digitally and really think about what amazing technology we have. And we have so many computer vision, we have so many cameras at the airport already. We have LiDAR, we have so many things we can use, and that this is really be used, and we can rely more on the actual data-driven approach, as Felix explained, and less on some gut feelings that might be correct, but also might be incorrect, and that we really get more data-driven out there, and the people can then embrace the digital technology.
Yeah, make use of what is there already, mostly.
Exactly.
And you, Felix, what do you
Definitely. Also, I mean, I totally agree with what Fabian has said, but also I think this also is true for a lot of industries, but especially also for aviation, is that we don't use AI as a buzzword. We don't just create solutions for problems that don't exist. I think what we did is actually the other way around. So we discovered a problem and we thought of, okay, which technology we can use. And I think if we can move in this direction, then also for aviation, there's a lot in store, a lot of interesting problems that still aren't solved. And I think if we move in this direction, there's a lot to come.
Yeah, I agree. Rather actually tackle challenges which are already there instead of like throwing another solution to the market that no one needs. Good. Well, then I say, actually, we came to an end. Thanks to you two for actually joining the podcast today. Thanks to the audience for listening. And I hope I will see you anytime soon for another episode of Data Waypoint. And with that, I wish you a wonderful rest of the day and talk soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Dear passengers, thanks for choosing zeroG. We hope you had a great and informative flight. See you next time.